It's really my pleasure to welcome Dr. Barbara Zarod back again. You may remember, how many years ago was it that you were here? Some years back, she came to, and I named the program the same thing. She calls it a license to walk because she made up a test. And I call it, oh, my aching feet. Dr. Zarod is a podiatrist in Bronxville, and the last time she came, she brought an assortment of shoes. Some of you may have been here. Some had spike 4-inch heels. So there was a wildest assortment of shoes, and we all, tried to wear them at one point earlier in our lives, which is probably why we have aching feet. But without further ado, let me introduce Barbara Zarod again.
Thank you for that kind introduction, Mrs. Stiers, and your welcoming applause. I always like applause. All right, so I decided to make this a walking test instead of a driver's test because we'd like to be on our feet a little bit more, get our exercise, improve our circulation, because walking is just so important for our health in general. And so many people have various problems with their feet, whether it's pain, whether it's balance, whether it's flat feet. So I'd like to try to address a few things about walking. And so take your sheets and let's go through the questions. All right, the first question. Which part of the street is safest to cross? A, the left side, B, the right side, C, the crosswalk, D, the jaywalk. C, the crosswalk. Now, some of you may remember, like I remember, years ago, the 4 lights at the intersection were red at the same time. And everybody walked at the same time, and of course, first, all the cars stopped at the same time. I feel personally that's the safest way that an intersection should be. My preference is not that one corner should be a green light, the next corner should be a red light. I don't find that to be safe. Anyway, so you have to be very careful when you're crossing, even at the green. If you have a green walk sign, you do have to be careful, because somebody might be traveling down the road making a right turn or a left turn, and that's where you would be at that intersection, and it's hard to stop suddenly. Especially at night, people wear black, nobody sees them in the dark, there's no reflectors, and so that's number one, is please look in all directions. Okay. Question number 2. Did everybody pass that test, that particular question? Good. So the crosswalk is the generally correct answer. Number 2. Which way do you stop and look before crossing the street? A. You do not need to pause and look since you always have the right of way. All right, some people feel that they have the right of way, so they don't bother looking. B. The lights are confusing, so just run across the street as fast as you can. That really shouldn't be that way. C. You push the stroller with the baby into the street first, so the cars will probably stop, then you cross. No? Okay. I guess not. D. You stop before crossing, look to the left, look to the right, then left again before crossing. So you look left, right, left. D. Okay, everybody got that right? Very good. 3. If you wear a light colored coat in the winter, you will be more visible in the dark. A. True, because light colors reflect. B. False, because only reflectors reflect. Small with light colors do not reflect. Okay, so the answer is B. False, because only reflectors reflect. Small flashlights should be used when walking at night to see better and to signal cars that you are present. So if you're walking your dog or taking an evening stroll, it's always nice to have a flashlight, maybe a little vest with reflectors, just to be on the secure side. Okay, question number 4. In the past, at an intersection, all 4 lights would turn red at the same time. All the cars stopped. Pedestrians crossed all 4 corners at the same time. A, true, B, false. A, true, yes. Everybody remembers that. 5. In the present, at an intersection, the driver has a green light to go on the avenue and the pedestrian has a green light to go on the cross street. The driver cannot make a right or left turn without interference with the pedestrian. That was the initial thing that I had mentioned, so that's true. Question 6. If you are standing or walking between 2 parked cars and one car does not notice you and starts to move, so you're crossing the street, maybe jaywalking, which you're not supposed to, and one of the cars, usually the car that you're in back of, starts to move, just take your hand and tap on the hood. Don't. Answer A, you freeze. B, you hit the body of the car with your hand and yell to stop. Okay? Very good. Right, so they'll stop as soon as they hear a bang. All right, next page, question 7. When you go walking into town, what type of shoe is best? A, pointy, tight, high heels that squeeze the blood out of your feet to impress your friends. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I usually see a group of ladies doing that, but if the wife walks with the husband, it's always sneakers, flats, and sweatpants. So we know who we want to try to impress. Okay, that's now B. Big, loose-fitting, flat shoes that slip off your feet as you walk. That's false also, because not only is it dangerous to have tight shoes that will cause pain, or it's also dangerous to have loose shoes. If they're flopping around, then you will step out of it, and that could be a problem. So now C, secure, comfortable shoes that have laces or an adjustable strap with a flexible sole. So, exactly, C, very good. So, if you're going to wear a slip-on shoe, because sometimes it's so hard with arthritis in the hands and the feet and the back and the hips and the knees to actually get down to tie your laces or to buckle a strap. So if you're going to get a slip-on shoe, make sure that the top of the shoe comes as high as possible. Covers the toes, covers the instep as high as possible. I like Merrill shoes as a slip-on shoe, or any kind of a knockoff is that. Any kind of a knockoff that you can find. There are lots of other slip-on shoes that you may want to investigate, but any kind of a Mary Jane style shoe with Velcro that goes across is an easier shoe to manipulate. And of course, if you can do laces, that would be very good. You can even place, instead of cotton laces, use elastic laces. So this way you can stretch the shoe out without lacing or unlacing the shoe and slip your foot inside. You can experiment with that. Okay? Figure out what the teenagers do, because they don't like to lace their sneakers. All right? Also, I happen to like boots, because boots will be very secure. You can just zip them up, and they will stay on your feet more easily than some of the other shoes. Okay? Question number 8. Which statements are true? When purchasing shoes, A, you go shopping in the morning because your foot is smaller. How many say yes? Everybody says no, that's wrong. Actually, it's true. If you go shopping in the morning, your foot is smaller. So if you buy the shoes in the morning, it's going to be a little tight for the afternoon. So, okay. B, when purchasing shoes, if you go shopping in the afternoon, you should go shopping in the afternoon because your foot is bigger. Okay, so that's true also. The first and the second statement is true. Now, it depends on how much swelling your feet do. If you have very little swelling, then it's not an issue. If you get a lot of swelling, which many of my patients do, you may want to have 2 pair of shoes. You may want to have a morning shoe, and you may want to have an afternoon shoe, because in the morning your feet are smaller. And if you have big shoes, you're going to slip out of them. And in the afternoon, the shoes that fit you in the morning are going to be too tight, and they're going to cause squeezing of the toes and corns to be painful and ingrown nails to be painful as well. So you may want to consider having a morning shoe and an afternoon shoe, depending on the amount of swelling that you have. Okay, now C, get only Ferragamo shoes. Okay, they're like $400, $500. So, yeah, I'll take 10 of them. All right, D, get SAS or Merrill shoes for wider feet. Now, everybody's heard of SAS shoes. They're probably #1 as far as construction, durability, and they have a shoe store on Central Avenue. Lord & Taylor also sells the SAS shoes. So they're very expensive. They're $100 or better. The nice thing about SAS shoes is that they will last forever. So put your money where your feet are. Because you're going to be on your feet every day as much as possible. So it's like training gear. And it's protective gear. So don't put $100 into a shoe for a wedding that you'll wear once. Put the $100 to a shoe that you're going to wear every day. All right, so SAS also has narrower shoes. So they have a variety of sizes and widths. E, get Easy Spirit or Caressa for narrow feet. Now, initially when I opened my office, all the shoes were narrow shoes, and my patients couldn't find a wider shoe who had bunions and hammer toes and needed a wider shoe. Now, it seems all the shoes are wide or extra wide, and my patients who have narrower feet can't find a shoe that fits them. So the pendulum has swung in the other direction. So keep your eyes open for Easy Spirit shoes or Caressa shoes. They are cut narrower. Even if it doesn't say that it's a narrow size, it is cut more narrow. And it's also a lighter shoe. Some people like the security of a heavier SAS shoe, and some people feel that they are more nimble in a lighter weight shoe like the Easy Spirit shoe. Some people like to feel the ground more, and some people need more protection. So take a look at both. And then F is to, when purchasing new shoes, get sneakers. Sneakers are really terrific. In the olden days, they didn't have any support. They were flat, they were thin. Kids used to just play with them, and then as soon as they finished playing, the parents would make them take off their sneakers and put on real shoes. But now, there has been a lot of improvement with sneakers, and many sneakers are actually better than shoes. You can get the different widths. Some of the better sneakers have removable insoles. And even shoes, like the SAS shoes and some Easy Spirit shoes, have removable insoles. So if you need a little extra room or a little more support, the shoes and the sneakers with removable insoles would be better. They last longer as well if you get a sneaker with a removable insole. And be careful of all the seams at the toe box of your shoes and your sneakers, because the seams always guaranteed that the seam will hit your corn, it'll hit your ingrown nail.
High.
Sorry?
High toe.
That's right. It'll hit anything that's elevated and is a little bit high. So try to minimize the number of seams. And if you have pain in a particular spot and you're fine everywhere else, avoid a seam in that spot. You can always stretch the shoe out more easily if there is no seam. If there's a seam there, it's much harder to stretch the shoe out. Okay, question number 9. If your balance is poor and you are walking down the street, you see 1 or 2 people or friends walking towards you, what do? To avoid a most common injury, you, A, move down from the sidewalk into the curb of the street to get out of their way. No. B, you stop, hold on to a signpost if you can, and let them get around you. This prevents a most common reason for falling. So, consider yourself walking down the street and a gang of kids walking, the girls jabber to each other or somebody pushing a stroller. Do not step off the curb to get out of the group's way or get out of a younger person's way or somebody who's talking on the cell phone not paying attention to you. Try to stop and just stay there and let them get around you, because that manipulation of trying to get down off the curb and going back on the curb is very, very dangerous. Okay? And so just stay right there. Don't, if there's a signpost, just hold on to it for security. 10. While walking down the street, a friend calls to you. So what happens is you're walking over here, somebody's across the street, and they're waving to you like that lady did.
No, you just try motions.
And so then you turn around, and then what happens? You lose your balance. And so then everybody feels bad. And so, A, you turn your head quickly and get dizzy. That's the wrong answer. You don't want to do that. B, you do not answer your friend calling you. That's true. Don't try to ignore them if you can, and then call them later to apologize if you know who they are. C, you turn slowly with your head and body together and take tiny steps to turn with your feet. So most people get dizzy when they move their head this way. Okay, that's great when you're a 5-year-old. It's kind of fun getting dizzy, moving your head back and forth. But when you're older, on 10,000 medications, used to be my patients would take 2 medications, and now they're taking like 6 or 8 or 10 a day. So be careful, because that's going to affect your blood pressure. It's going to affect a lot of things. So if you need to turn, you have to try to hold your head and your neck and your shoulders together and just take little steps with your feet to turn. Okay, just like this. So this way you're more secure and you won't get dizzy. 11. When in church, you need to kneel. I spelled that wrong. So when you're kneeling in church, or when you want to kneel in church, and the kneeler in the pew behind you is in your way, do you, A, push the kneeler back with your feet so that it hits the shins of the lady behind you. This would take about a year to heal due to poor circulation in that area. Okay, so don't do that. Several of my patients have had serious injuries from that. B is the right answer. Politely ask her to place the kneeler down. Okay, that's a lot safer, a lot nicer. So please be careful of your shins. The shins, right here in the front of the leg, the inside of the leg, the lower leg has the worst circulation, and any type of an injury in that location takes a long, long time to heal. So please be careful of that. Question 12. What are the 5 principles of health? I got that from Dr. Oz. Okay, my buddy, right? A, is eat healthy, take vitamin C, B12, avoid salt, avoid MSG, and avoid chemicals. Okay, so try to eat healthy. One of my patients yesterday said her friend has a chocolate cake, piece of chocolate cake for dinner every night. Does anybody do that?
No.
But that's what a lot of people do. They have a frozen dinner, or they have a piece of chocolate cake, maybe oatmeal cookies, because that's good fiber. Try to eat healthy as much as you can. Make a big batch of food that lasts for several days. Stick it in the freezer, or just leave it in the refrigerator and eat the same thing over and over again. And then in a few days, cook another big meal so that you can subdivide it for yourself, or invite friends and you can all have a nice big party every night. All right, I went to a seminar and they were talking about about various vitamins. Now, some people take a lot of vitamins, and some people take no vitamins. So at the seminar, the nutritionist for NASA said that one a day multivitamin is very, very healthy for you. Not to bother with too many excessive vitamins unless you really need something. You know, some people need more vitamins than others. Everybody has a different chemistry in their body. So on average, the NASA nutritionist recommended one multivitamin a day. Another vitamin is vitamin C, which is very good for you. It's good for healing process. Vitamin B12. That's a very important vitamin for this group of people, because what happens is that the B12 vitamin is absorbed in the gut. And as we get a little older, that doesn't work. That absorption of the vitamin from the intestine does not work. And the regular B12 vitamin isn't absorbed either, because you're swallowing it and placing it into your gut. So what you have to do is make sure you get the sublingual B12, like the nitroglycerin, the B12 that dissolves under the tongue, and hold it under the tongue until it's absorbed in the body. Why do you need B12? If you're low in B12, number one, it makes you anemic, and number two, it causes numbness in the feet. So as far as lack of a vitamin, having a low dose in your body of vitamin B12 is a very, very common thing for older people. So keep that in mind, to take a B12, but only the sublingual or the shot. Those are the only ones that work. So talk to your doctors about that. Another vitamin is vitamin D. A lot of doctors are recommending vitamin D, right, for osteoporosis. It's supposed to be very good for diabetes as well.
And colon also, now they're saying.
The colon, right?
Yeah.
So talk to your doctors about vitamin D, and see if that's a regimen that you should take, and the dosages. Of course, we all know to avoid salt. Salt builds up in the body. It causes swelling of your ankles and so on. So we all know that 2,000 milligrams is about the right amount of sodium salt in your body per day. But some bodies are smaller, some bodies are bigger. So you have to kind of gauge it for yourself. And a frozen dinner typically has 2,000 milligrams or better of salt. So if you're a man who does a lot of weightlifting and does a lot of perspiration, then you can use that salt. But if you're a 75-pound lady, then you don't really, you're not really able to tolerate so much salt. The other thing I want you to think about is MSG, monosodium glutamate. Does anyone know if they have bad reactions to monosodium glutamate? Anyone get the shakes after they eat Chinese food or a frozen dinner? Okay, about 50% of the people are allergic to monosodium glutamate. And what does it cause? It causes the shakes, it causes atrial fibrillation. It can cause some nerve damage as well. So this is kind of controversial, but many people if they go out to eat too often, depending on what they eat, they may get certain reactions. So pay attention to that, okay? And find restaurants that don't use MSG. Now, everything in a can has a little bit of MSG in it, or a frozen dinner always has a little MSG in it. They don't need to label it until it's at a certain dose. So you may have 1 item, 2 items, 3 items with MSG, and it may build up in your body. So be very careful with the MSG. Monosodium Glutamate, sodium.
The MSG, I went to buy some sausage a long time ago, and I said, I wonder what they have in here. MSG. Oh my gosh, why would they put MSG in sausage?
Well,
So I
okay.
make sure I read all the labels now when I buy that.
Can I tell? I looked on the MSG website.
Yeah.
And MSG.
Can you repeat the question so they hear?
Oh, sure. Which question was that? Why do they use MSG? Was that your question? They loaded sausage up with MSG, the prepackaged. Exactly. If you look at their website, it enhances the flavor. So it makes you addicted to that food. So MSG was initially a product of Japan hundreds of years ago. And so it was made out of seaweed originally. Now it's made out of wheat and not seaweed. And so the process has changed a little bit. So on your website it says that they use MSG in Japan because older people don't have functioning taste buds. So they cannot taste the food that they're eating, and so they won't eat food, and they'll get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier and weaker and weaker and weaker. So they put the MSG in there to improve the appetite. Okay? Now with the obesity crisis in our country, do we need to increase our appetite?
No.
Nope.
They come up with something to decrease our appetite.
All right. So be careful of MSG, okay? B, avoid unhealthy substances such as smoking and excess alcohol. Don't take heroin, okay? Stay away from cocaine. Okay, now, don't do drugs, ladies and gentlemen. Now, back to the real question is, how many of you take drugs? Everybody, right? All right, so a lot of people take Benadryl to help fall asleep, because falling asleep is a big issue in the general population, but especially with older individuals. So people take Tylenol PM, so that has Benadryl in it. They may take an allergy pill with Benadryl in it. And Benadryl, yes, it will help you fall asleep, but what about in the morning? So in the morning, you still have that Benadryl in you, and then you're groggy, and you can't wake up, and your balance is worse, and you're dizzy. Okay, so be careful of that, please. And they say that 1 drink is okay to help you relax a day. Unless you have breast cancer, stay away from alcohol if you have breast cancer. And so no more than 1 drink a day if you can help yourself, okay? And what about pain pills? All my patients have sciatica, arthritis.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so there are so many different pain medications, and they will make you groggy. So instead of, talk to your doctor. Instead of taking a full dosage of the pain medication, maybe you can split it if it's allowed. And, to take the minimal dosage, talk to your doctor to see if you can take the minimal dosage to make you comfortable. And always be careful of your stomach. Like a lot of people take Motrin, which is a great product, Aleve, which is a great product, but just be careful. Take it with food so as to avoid stomach problems, and don't go to bed right after you take your pain pill or your arthritis pill. Allow it to kind of pass through your stomach into the small intestine so that you don't get the reflux burning your stomach and, hiatal hernia pain and so on. Okay? And lock up your medications. Many of you are on pain pills, like serious pain pills. Please lock them up. Put them in a safe place. Don't tempt anybody. C, be physically active. That's so important to walk, to do sports, do Tai Chi, tennis, swim, yoga. Does anybody do exercise here?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody? Do you do yoga here?
No. Tai Chi.
You do Tai Chi?
And regular.
Tai Chi. Tai Chi increases your balance by 50%. Yeah, so do your Tai Chi. Yoga increases your flexibility, and that's super important. And walking is really good for what? Circulation. I know you know all the answers. I have patients where they had taken blood tests. These a test where they put a blood pressure cuff on your thigh, above your knee, below the knee, and at the ankle, and listen with a microphone, and maybe they get 40% circulation or 50% circulation, and then they're told to walk, and those that do walk, they have another test a year or two later, and instead of 40-50%, they're 60%. You know, that's a big, nice jump. It takes you from like a gray zone to a good zone. So definitely do try to walk. Try to avoid the snow and the ice, though. Okay? And also, I find that my patients who stay healthier are the ones that can touch their feet. Okay? Can anybody not touch their feet? Yeah.
Sitting down.
Sitting. Well, sitting down counts. If you can sit down and touch your feet, I'm going to give you points for that. But a lot of people can't do that. Their backs hurt, you know, stomach issues, arthritis in the shoulders, arthritis in the hip, and the knee, you know, the whole gamut. So what you could do is sit in a chair and practice touching your toes. Touch on one side, touch on the other side, touch in the middle, you know, and do it sitting down so as not to irritate your any dizziness. You don't want to start any dizziness. So, and move slowly. All right, and positive thinking is very important to keep yourself healthy, keep your feet healthy. So avoid watching the news and avoid watching the Weather Channel and the stock market. Okay? Everything's a big catastrophe. Okay, and the weather's nice outside, so do enjoy going outside when you can, especially now that the spring is almost here. All right, the fifth principle of health is to pray and meditate. Okay, so if you ever read, there's an article in one of the newspapers about a lady from Tuckahoe, who's 103.
Yes, Helen Smith.
Helen Smith, right.
There's
So
another one. Helen is now 106.
she's 100. Ooh, that's an old article, huh? Okay. So, you know, listen to those articles, listen to those people, and they'll tell you what works. You know, stay healthy, pray a little, eat well, visit your friends, have fun. All right, always have fun. So that's the end of this test. Did everybody pass?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, I'll be sending you your license in the mail, 6 to 8 weeks. Now, on the table, I'm glad everybody passed. Congratulations. So on this table, I have a few items that I could show you. I think I gave a lot of people a little bit of moleskin. So this is a little felt pad. It's a little felt. There's no moles. No moles were harmed in this product. Okay, the moles are fine. This is moleskin. It's just a thin layer of felt. So if there's a toe that's hurting you, you cut a little piece, cover where the pain is, and then you're fine. In the wintertime, this is a little Eucerin moisturizer. So in the wintertime, everybody's skin gets super dry. And it gets so dry that it's actually dangerous. The skin can crack open and bacteria goes in, and then you get what's called cellulitis. So the bacteria grows inside the tissue, inside the fluids, the fat layer, the skin, and then it's an emergency room visit. And so all you really need to do to prevent a multi-thousand-dollar bill is put a little moisturizer on at least every day. If your skin is super dry, I happen to love good old Vaseline petroleum jelly. Crisco is also great. Olive oil is good. Anything that you would put in a salad except for the vinegar and salt. Lemon, don't put lemon. Okay, so any of the oils, Vaseline is terrific. Allow it to absorb for maybe 10 minutes, a half an hour, and then take a paper towel and wipe off the excess. And then you can put socks on if you wish. Okay, Heller's is one of my favorite shoe stores, by the way. They're in Pleasantville and Mount Kisco. And I hope to get paid. No, just a joke. So these are also similar to the shoes like SAS. And again, the shoe comes up high. Shoe comes up pretty high, so your whole foot is secure. When the shoe is cut low, a lot of people crunch their toes, grasp with their toes to hold on so that the shoe doesn't come off. Or they have the shoe so tight that the poor toes don't get any blood. So, and I love the Velcro. Okay, so that's very nice. Now, for people who have swelling, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. If you get shoes with a removable insole, if you get swelling, you can take the insole out and you have a little extra room. So you can even wear the shoe the whole day. As far as wearing shoes, my preference is to not wear the same shoe every single day. Try to alternate shoes. Even throughout the day, if you can alternate a morning shoe, an afternoon shoe, an evening shoe, the pressure point, let's just face it, the shoes are going to give you a pressure point here and there. So don't keep the pressure point in the same spot. That's when you get into more trouble. So vary your shoes. So sometimes it'll hurt here, sometimes it'll hurt there, sometimes it'll hurt here. But so try to vary it. Also, when you have swelling, socks are a big issue because especially for the ladies, the socks are very tight. And they have edema socks. So when your ankles swell, they have these socks that stretch out. Well, I think I brought the wrong sock. Anyway, they have socks, edema socks, that stretch out pretty wide so that it's not pinching you at the ankle and irritating you. So I think Value Drug and CVS has them. They're different types, so keep your eyes open for that. People have diabetes. There are such things as diabetic socks, which are similar to the edema socks. And then some people have fungus, and there are silver socks and copper socks that help to kill the fungus. So because of the copper and because of the silver, it does help to kill the fungus. It kills certain bacteria as well. And there are also various types of arch supports. These are prefabricated. Here's a softer one. This is a harder one. This one is just a nice soft cushion. As people get older, they lose fat on the bottom of their feet. So all they have is skin and bone. And so you have no cushioning there. And so something like this, or some type of an insole, just plain flat, if you don't need support, is very helpful. And this is a skeleton of the foot. And so if anybody wants to come by and take a look and see where it hurts, what it looks like deeper inside, help yourself. And this is the hip, the right hip. Okay? So you can see all these little nooks and crannies, especially on the foot. So something's bound to hurt sooner or later. And I think that's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do, doctor.
The heel thing, yeah, it's a rubberized.
A heel cup?
Yeah, it's wonderful. The one that's gel, it's a gel.
Gel heel cup. Yeah.
And that's good because I had that plantar fasciitis.
Right, right. This lady was saying about plantar fasciitis. That's pain in the heel and in the arch, at the bottom of the heel and in the arch. So it's a very painful situation. It feels like a knife poking you at every step. And so there are a variety of treatments depending on how severe the pain is. A simple thing that I tell my patients initially is if you have heel pain, heel spur pain, put ice on it. Maybe 15 minutes to a half an hour in the morning, 15 minutes to a half an hour in the evening. And so start and to stretch the foot. So that would be to stretch the foot. I actually do it sitting down because I'm lazy. And so basically just move your feet upward and hold it for 10 seconds, relax. And I have my knees straight, and again, it's called dorsiflexing your foot up, hold it for 10 seconds, relax, and do it 3 times, and relax. And then you can also bend your knee and dorsiflex. Do this exercise also when you're getting cramps in your legs in the middle of the night. It breaks the spasm. So anyway, back to the heel pain. There are all kinds of cushions. There's the silicone cushions, the gel cushions, there are foam cushions, there are some with the donuts. There are some that cup your heel. I think that's probably the most important. As long as it maybe cups your heel or cushions the heel, some kind of a shock absorption is super important. And of course there are pills, arthritic type pills that help with the inflammation, and injections. There's shock wave therapy for it for severe situations. Surgery for heel spur is something that I've never had to recommend anyone for because everything else seems to help. And of course orthotic devices, some kind of an arch support to support the plantar fascia so it doesn't pull against the bone. All right, you got a question?
Yes, I do have a question, doctor. I went to a podiatrist about a year ago. I had a little bit of problem with a slightly ingrown toenail. I've got him on both feet. And I find, I'm not a diabetic, so he said that my insurance, he managed to have it covered that day. But he said insurance won't cover if you're not a diabetic. Well, I'm sure there's somebody else my age, my size, that can't cut their toenails anymore. I'm finding it very difficult. So I go to the nail place and have it done. Why is that they don't? He said you have to have arthritis so bad, you have to be on 20 pills, and it, big deal.
Well, you can, sometimes it depends on whether you write routine care or whether you write ingrown toenail as a diagnosis. Ingrown toenail is a legitimate diagnosis with Medicare.
Oh, yeah? Right.
So, and there are various degrees of ingrown toenails. And to tell you the truth, nail salons are not supposed to do ingrown toenails. It's against the law.
Oh, I don't let them touch it. I just cut straight across, that's all.
Right.
They're not that bad yet, but I just was wondering, is there someone else that's having a hard time cutting their toenails besides me?
Everybody has a hard time. So here's what happens. So what happens is that maybe when you're a baby, your nail is more or less has a gentle curve to it. And actually, I've had baby patients who with ingrown toenails. They're born. A lot of people are born with an excessive curvature of the nail, with and chronically become infected, especially if they're doing sports. When they're growing, their feet grow faster than their shoes grow. And you can get shoes on a Friday, and they're too tight on a Monday with a child, especially. Anyway, so as time goes by, this gentle curvature of the nail changes shape. And fungus will make it change shape. Scar tissue will make it change shape. Shoes, if they're too short, too tight, will cause it to change shape. And then people get pain in that area. They get infections in that area, inflammation, a lot of sensitivity. And again, the infection can travel up the leg as well. So it's definitely a legitimate diagnosis. And any other questions? Yes?
What's the difference between a walking sneaker and a cross trainer?
Oh gosh, there are about a zillion different types of sneakers. And it all depends on the cushioning amount, the heel lift, the amount of control on the inside. Some of it I think is bogus. Sorry. Some of it I think is bogus. And when you're buying a sneaker, put a sneaker on that's going to feel comfortable. That's number one. And for instance, there are variations in sneakers. Like tennis sneaker has a very, very low heel or no heel because people have a side-to-side motion. So if they have a higher heel, they're more likely to sprain their ankles. Jogging shoes and running shoes have a higher heel because, and a lot more cushioning underneath because they need more shock absorption for the impact of the running, and they run more. Faster people run, the more they run on the ball of their foot. So that's where the cushioning is. As far as specifically the cross trainer, again, it depends on the height of the heel. It depends on the cushioning level. I mean, it's hard to compare apples and oranges because every shoe has a slightly different model. Every company, Asics has a slightly different model. New Balance has a slightly different model. Saucony has a slightly different model. But cross trainers are supposed to be able to carry you everywhere. They have a little bit of a heel lift and plenty of cushioning. The new fashion in sneakers and sports is to do it barefoot because all the Olympic runners run barefoot in Kenya. And so they win all those races. And they may take off their sneakers. They don't like the sneakers because they're used to walking on sand and barefoot, some kind of a cushiony soil. So don't try that on cement, okay? Yeah, it won't. It's not that great. And anyway, so the sneakers at one point had a lot of control, a lot of cushioning, and then the runners are complaining that it's too much control, too much padding, too much cushioning. So now they're streamlining it, making a little less padding, a little less support for the people that like a natural feel. Okay, any other questions? Let me just mention diabetics. Make sure you try to keep your sugar, between 100, 120, 130. Try not to go too far over that. Have a piece of candy in your pocket in case you feel dizzy. Try to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever snacks you need to have. Test yourself when you need to. And also, as far as diabetics, a lot of my patients had experience where their father and their mother lost a leg from diabetes. But so they did, the military did a study to find out why is it that people get amputations. Do they get amputations as a diabetic from the poor circulation, or do they get amputations from diabetes because of numbness? Those are the two issues with diabetics, numbness and poor circulation. So they compared, and they said that their conclusion was that people get amputations because of numbness, not so much poor circulation. So, and why is it that numbness is the problem? The numbness is the problem in diabetics because, of course, the longer you have diabetes, the more likely it is for the feet to go numb more and more and more. So you can't feel an injury. So typically, if somebody steps on a nail or steps on gets a pebble inside the shoe, or the shoe rubs against a hammer toe or a bunion, then they get a blister or a cut. And then the patient does not realize that they have an injury because they don't feel it. And so they leave it alone. And they wear black socks so they can't see that there's blood or some kind of fluid. Maybe they're even blind, so they can't see what's going on. And so the infection gets worse and worse, and then pus comes out, and at some point the leg swells, and maybe the infection travels up too high, and you know, if you have a little infection, little blister, it's super easy to take care of it. But once the infection starts traveling throughout the body and cutting off the circulation because of the swelling, then it's very, very hard to do anything about it to reverse that. So that's why numbness is worse than poor circulation. And poor circulation, the more you walk, the more tiny little vessels grow. Even if the big artery isn't patent, isn't open, the tiny little arteries around it will grow and improve the circulation that way.
The nerve endings, the toes just automatically deteriorate. They turn black. We've seen it.
So, well, yeah. Now, in a way, you're right. Just plain, just as time goes.
They feel nothing. It's
Yeah.
just very demoralizing.
It is. The other thing is that as time goes by, the nerve endings aren't functioning. Just in a regular person, forget a diabetic. Babies' nerves are like 1,000 times more sensitive than my nerves and your nerves. So if you wear white socks, you can see if there's a bleeding or a wound. Okay? So, but on a good note, walk, take your vitamins, eat well, and party on. Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Once again, I guess the moral is check your feet.